All right, so Twitter has once again shown itself to be aligned with the forces of evil by permanently banning James Lindsay for his anti-groomer activism.
Can I just interject here? Sorry. Twitter is the Eye of Sauron.
It absolutely is.
So, it's definitely aligned with the forces of evil. I mean,
I know, it's just impressive how they just...
It's the source of it.
They've dedicated themselves to just again and again and again. Yes, we're the bad guys. By the way, just in case you've forgotten, we're the bad guys. We hate you and everything you stand for.
They literally may as well change the logo to the Eye of Sauron.
I mean, it wouldn't take that much effort, would it? I mean,
But
it's already small,
Well, I'm not even joking. Like, the analogy is completely fair. It's wherever the Twitter mob is, like, gazing, oh, God, there the trouble is. Anyway, sorry.
Well, it fixed itself on James Lindsay. Before we go any further, I'll just point out that we've got a new premium contemplations from Josh and Connor talking about the manosphere's disastrous dating advice. I've not had the chance to look at this one yet. I have seen some controversy in the comments regarding it, but I trust Josh and Connor to be able to explain adequately why it is that they disagree with the manosphere dating advice. And Connor mentioned that one of the pieces of advice was if a woman starts to run away, this is not a no, which is slightly absurd and definitely deserving of criticism.
I know what they're saying with that. What they're saying is some women like to be chased, as in, they want you to prove that you're actually into them, and so they want you to. But
sadly, I in
why
the past,
it sounds wrong.
Before I found the love that I'm with right now, I have fallen foul of that when particular women have wanted me to chase them, but because of the standards that are presented nowadays, I was like, oh, they're not interested. I don't want to come across creepy, so bye-bye. And then later on I found out, oh, you were just wanting me to chase you.
Yeah, okay. Everyone's had it, but it's like, at the end of the day, ladies.
Like mixed signals,
we're not mind readers.
Yeah. The eternal statement of men, we're not mind readers. Come on, please, get this into your heads eventually. You don't have to read our minds. Anyway, moving on. So, let's take a look at this article.
We're simple creatures.
Yes, we are. We're just ape brains. But so this post-millennial article breaks down a little bit about how James Lindsay has been permanently banned from Twitter. The primary thing I want to show is this screenshot here, which he shared on, I think, through the New Discourse's Twitter page. Mm-hmm. If you just scroll down a bit, John, so we can see it a bit more clearly. So your account, Conceptual James, has been suspended for violating the Twitter rules, specifically for violating our rules against hateful conduct. You may not promote violence against, threaten, or harass other people on the basis of race, ethnicity, national origin, sexual orientation, gender identity, religious affiliation, age, disability, or serious disease. So it must have been something pretty serious that he did based on that, wouldn't it?
Well, we can see where he said, okay, child sexualization specialist.
Yes.
I don't know who's responding to, but okay, well...
Well, I do know who he's responding to.
Well, the question, though, is, okay, well, what category did he fall afoul of here? Was he harassing? I mean, I can only assume they mean harassing from this, because this is not a threat or it's not promotion of violence. So it must be harassment.
It's just
against someone's either race, ethnicity, national origin, sexual orientation, gender identity, religious affiliation, age, disability, or serious disease.
Now, I wonder which one it would fall under.
I'm guessing it's sexual orientation.
Or gender identity, which could also count as serious disease, depending on how you frame it.
Maybe, but I kind of hope it's sexual orientation, because what Twitter is saying with that is that paedophiles are a protected class, and we're going to stand in their defense, god damn it.
That's certainly what it comes across as.
That's really what it comes across as.
Yeah, so Lindsay was responding to a Slate journalist called Alejandro Carabello, who had written in response to one of James's tweets. I couldn't see the tweet that she was responding to because his account's suspended now, so that's fun. But she said that your misogynoir is showing. Now, had you ever heard of this phrase before?
So it
means
it's a kind of portmanteau, or however that's pronounced. That means hatred against black women, right? But the thing I hate about it is it's mixing Greek and French words.
Yeah.
Misogyny is Greek and noir is French for black.
I think it's just a silly victim term.
It is
absolutely
a silly victim term. But the term, this term to me is like nails on a chalkboard, because I just hate the mixing of it. Sorry.
I don't know. I'd love for someone to throw that at me, because it would just up my credentials, to be honest.
Yes, it is.
Yes, I am. Let me tell you more. But yeah, he was. the article just goes on to point out that he was previously locked out of his account in July after tweeting "OK Groomer" at a Media Matters journalist, which was funny. I think James is the person who started the "OK Groomer" thing.
Well, he's one of the people who helped popularize it, but a lot of people were doing it at the same time.
Yeah,
It's
well,
kind of caught fire, the meme.
Obviously, Lindsay is very important. For anybody who might be watching this who doesn't know the context, James Lindsay has been an activist against critical race theory and more recently queer theory as well, alongside the likes of Chris Ruffo, and has actively had a hand in helping certain legislation pass in places like Florida, where you've got based governors like Ron DeSantis deciding, you know what, let's not teach kids to hate themselves because of their race, and let's not teach kids to think that they're the opposite sex when they're so obviously not.
This is wild.
I know. It's ridiculous that it's got
what
this
a
far.
throwback Ron DeSantis. But I forgot that Twitter had recently banned calling people groomers. So, again, Twitter's like, listen,
was that not Reddit?
No, it's Twitter.
Oh, really?
You can't be hurtful towards the paedophiles. Not at all. Not on our watch. Twitter's number one paedophile defender, apparently.
Yes, well, to steal man, they would say that the to steal man, the nonce defenders.
To steal, exactly.
To steal
man, sour on the nonce defender.
Yeah, so what they would make the argument of is groomer is obviously a very loaded term, and they're using it in a kind of... I've seen these people making these arguments. They're using it in a politically and socially ambiguous way that implies that people who are, from our perspective, just simply... psychologically grooming, say for instance with the critical race theory kind of insidiously planting these ideas in kids' head to insinuate instead that they are actual child predators. Although there does seem to be a hefty crossover.
Yeah, their position is, well, you're calling all gay people groomers. And it's like, no, there's an active organisation called Gays Against Groomers who are like, we also think they are groomers and we're gay. So, what do you want? So, again, Twitter's just being like, hey, all gays aren't groomers. And everyone's like, we didn't say that.
We didn't say gays.
That's what
when
you
did
heard,
they come
though,
into
right?
it?
That's what you heard. Right, okay, very interesting.
So, the post-millennial did reach out for Lindsay for comment, and he said, Twitter has inconvenienced me and simultaneously confessed that they have a vested interest in protecting the sexualization of children. This also suggests the possibility of an untoward relationship between Twitter and Media Matters, which deserves investigation. I'm glad they've drawn so much attention to the issue. In any case, it has to stop. We must protect our children.
Yes.
And the person who did get him banned off of Twitter was the person he was responding to originally, this Alejandro. If we go to the next link, we can see she put good riddance and then responded to her tweet in the next one saying, tell James I want him to know it was me. So
remember, folks, if she heard that James Lindsay had died in a car accident, she'd put clapping emojis.
She would be very happy, just like
that's what these people think of you.
Yeah, when Rush Limbaugh died, you saw all of these types of people absolutely celebrating.
God, yeah.
If there was a way that they could dance on his grave, that these people would be forming an orderly queue, is ridiculous. But yeah, so she reported him, and Twitter just went, yeah, looks like harassment to me.
Good point. Can't be insulting this pedo.
Yeah, exactly.
Alleged pedo, I should probably say.
And but for those of you who are still interested in following James, he does still have a Getter account that you can access, and you can follow him on it. And he has responded to this having happened on his Getter account, where he just said, the bastards kicked me off to protect child predators. I'm grateful for the attention it will bring to the issue and look forward to going outside again sometimes, which is probably nice because James, to be fair, did spend an unhealthy amount of time on Twitter.
Yes.
Judging by just how much he tweeted.
But as someone who has also been suspended from Twitter, I can tell you do get a lot more time outside after that.
It does sound like a blessing rather than a curse, I'll say that. Yeah. And he also did an interview regarding this with somebody called Alison Royal, where he was discussing, he feels like he's been let out of prison and he's happy to be away from all the constant hate. This did actually get his name trending on Twitter as well, so it is really drawing a lot of eyes to it. I think when he got banned or suspended before, it might have got critical race theory and other such things to start trending on Twitter. So Twitter, as much as they're trying to censor this, when they make these things happen, they actually draw more attention to the issues that they're trying to get out of public view, really.
But it does go to show that everyone accepts that Twitter is an addictive drug. Like, everyone is addicted to Twitter. They're addicted to the instant responses, the dopamine hits of having a successful tweet.
I mean, that's the thing.
Arguing with,
he mentions that in this, which is that he says that when you log on to Twitter and you get that little pause before your notifications pop up to show you how many notifications that you have, they actually studied gamblers to see what the perfect amount of time was to increase the anticipation enough to keep you as engaged as possible.
Really?
So they're taking studies done by gamblers to try and make the apps as addictive as possible, which is very interesting. It was a very interesting point that he brought up there. So he said he's just happy to be away from it, and he says he's grateful more people get to see his message, and also it might get him some more TV appearances as well. So
nice to see him rocking the PJW map in the background as well.
Yeah, actually, you're right. He is definitely taking this in his stride, and overall, I don't think that being forced away from Twitter is necessarily a bad thing. More than anything, it just shows the bias that Twitter has in terms of pushing a particular agenda. And he also shared some more information regarding the person who got him banned in the first place, which more than anything just shows the hypocrisy. Not that these people care about any hypocrisy, this is all power games to them. In this Breitbart article, where she is a Harvard Law School instructor as well, Alejandro Carabella called for the 6 conservative Supreme Justices who voted to overturn Roe v. Wade to be harassed in tweets that gained wider attention in the past several days.
Just go and harass these judges, please, says Harvard Law School instructor.
Says nonce defender.
Yeah.
The 6 judges, so one of the tweets that she put out, you can see if you scroll down, she said, the 6 judges who overturned Roe should never know peace again. Oh. It's our civic duty to accost them every time they're in public. They are pariahs. Now, this seems a lot more like targeted harassment than James throwing out a funny meme.
I mean, this seems like a crime.
I mean, this does sound like, she's not saying it strictly, but if you wanted to interpret it in such a way, and Twitter has more often than not interpreted things wildly.
Well, I mean, they've already got
this
laws.
Seems like call to violence.
Even if it's not
harass
call to
them in the
violence,
street.
You're not allowed to sort of like protest outside of judges' houses because it prejudices the legal system, right? And so she must know that that's the case, and she must know that this is also prejudicing legal decisions. But moreover, it's just amazing. Like, there was a guy who was arrested trying to kill Kavanaugh, and another one, Alito, I think it was. And she's just posting stuff like this, and no one cares. There's going to be no accountability for any of these people, folks.
No, of course. Not from Twitter, at the very least. And
not from anyone.
Yeah.
This looks like a crime to me.
That's fair. Noted by Campus Reform, she also is an advocate for censorship. I know, hold your shock, everybody. Calling for Twitter to ban the popular conservative site Lives of TikTok as a terrorist enterprise because it...
Terrorist is like, hey, they're terrorists. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, okay. Listen to what these people have to say about their own movement. What are you, some kind of terrorist? And so she's not exactly squeaky clean, but it's just another example of the obvious.
Awful.
Yes, she's just another example of the overwhelming political bias that Twitter has. The Elon seemed to be trying to sort out for a little bit, but who knows where that's going now that it seems to be up in the air, legally speaking. Chris Ruffo, who I mentioned earlier as well, has worked with James Lindsay, and he had a response to this, which is it's a perfect example of discourse engineering using the tools of language control to shape and restrict public narratives. Hateful conduct is a pretext. Hate is in fact widely permitted as long as it's directed toward regime-approved targets.
This is totally true. And what we're seeing here is just the noose tightening on Twitter. Like every time, the right has some kind of mimetic weaponry that they can deploy against the left. And Groomer was a really powerful way of doing it. As soon as it became obvious that, oh God, everyone's actually pointing at us and going, hang on a second, you're weird pedo, not you personally, but you're weird pedo groomers, you're trying to sexualize kids. They're like, yeah, okay, well that's banned. And so eventually it's going to be only regime-approved talking points, as Christopher is pointing out here.
When it gets there, to be fair, Chris is probably a little bit safer than James because James liked to indulge in a lot of the meme side of it and throw out ad homs at people.
You can see how the salami slicer is getting closer.
Chris
he'll
conducts himself in a more professional manner, but yes, of course, they will get to him.
They will.
Yes, and once again, although mentioning the whole queer thing, it did amuse me how easily and quickly they adapted to it when Reddit banned the word groomer and they immediately adapted to predator.
Yeah, it was great.
Which was fantastic, because it's just so mimetic as well. And one of the reasons that they so obviously want to tighten the noose on people like James Lindsay and Chris Ruffo is because they just, as shown in this tweet, tell the truth. And this next one we've got here...
Well, we can't have people telling the truth on our watch.
No, Chris has been fantastic the whole time at being able to find... information that should not necessarily be out in the public or is not intended to be out in the public, and just throw it out there for everybody to see what's going on. And he shared this one, which is brilliant. What LGBTQ students want you to know. I'm a 17-year-old Chicana lesbian and intersectional feminist living in Houston, Texas. And then, I'm a 15-year-old transgender guy. I am asexual and pan-romantic, which means I take the phrase hearts not parts very literally. You are just mentally ill. This is just
not the product of grooming, folks.
No,
not the product of
not
grooming.
At all.
This is just organic, natural. This is what these teenagers came up with themselves. They were just like, yeah. One day I was just like, yeah, I think I might be a pan-romantic, transgender, asexual. That's
it happened all the time when I was in school.
Yeah.
All of the girls were so eager to tell everybody about all of these words they just made up about themselves.
I think I do use they, them pronouns. As every teenager thinks. Yeah, totally not grooming, folks.
Obviously, and Ruffo puts it very well here, where he says, the best way to understand these synthetic identities and neo-pronouns is they're reducible to politics, not sexuality. Yes. It's not about LGBT, it's about the Q, as in establishing credibility and advancing the ideology of queer theory. And that's one of the other interesting things that I didn't mention that James pointed out in his interview following his ban, which is that critical race theory isn't what got him banned from Twitter. It was purely this stuff calling out queer theory, which shows in the hierarchy what it is. Because critical race theory, is a way to get differing groups of people based on race and ethnicity to combat each other. But queer theory at its base is going straight to the foundations of our understanding of reality, biological reality between men and women, and how you express yourself in society.
To be fair, critical race theory does as well. It's just not as tripwire-like when it comes to queer theory.
Quite as drastic.
Because when they say queer, they're laying claim to every gay person, and it's not the critical race theorists aren't laying claim to every black person, but they actually accept that there is a kind of difference of opinion in the black community. Because I mean, a lot of it is Kimberly Crenshaw arguing against Thomas Sowell. So but the queer theory stuff, weirdly it's more sensitive.
I can't believe somebody decided to think that they could take on Thomas Sowell like that and win. I mean, sadly, culturally, she seems to.
She's done it.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, the queer theory as well, I would say, is not necessarily just restricted to we lay claim over all queer people. It's they fashion it as a mode of expression, how you express yourself. That's why a lot of these people who are they, them pronouns, they don't necessarily actually, I know, shockingly enough, believe that they're not a man or a woman, or even necessarily that something else exists. It's all about how they express themselves. Oh, I'm a guy, but I feel more like dressing in a girly way. Therefore, I am something completely different than anything that's been understood by humanity up till now.
Yeah.
And once again, the way that it's been effective is Wocal Distance pointed out very recently, and I think it's come off the back of this probably, that queer theory started trending again. And he says that the strategies that Chris Ruffo has developed to fight against radical gender theory is working, because that's what make these people, like James Lindsay and like Chris Ruffo, so dangerous to the regime as it stands right now, because their activism really does have an effect, at the very least, of getting people aware of what's going on. The more parents, especially, are aware of something like queer theory being taught in the schools, the more parents push back against the schools, the less the schools have the ability to push the agenda, the less the next generation is affected. Because pushing it all on the kids is just trying to raise an army of queer revolutionaries.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Is what they're
exactly
going for, as far as I can see. And
it's the same with critical race theory as black revolutionaries.
Oh, absolutely.
It's all the same mission.
And if you want to see explicit examples of how this is so damaging and how it gets about, just move to the next link for me, please, where Libs of TikTok pointed out this person. You may have seen this person, Ellie Ehrlich, who is saying that there are 20 states trying to criminalize hormone therapy, particularly for trans youth. So my friends and I had an idea, sending out our extra prescriptions, this is for hormones, around the country.
How could this go wrong?
Yes, this doesn't seem like grooming. Sending out drugs, experimental in some cases, drugs to kids.
I'm pretty sure it's illegal for them to traffic these drugs around the country.
Yes, it is. In fact, Matt Walsh in the next link points out that this is very illegal on several levels. I don't think you're allowed to sell drugs through the postal service in this way.
But also, right, these are prescription drugs, as in the doctor will write a prescription for your particular case, right? Being like, oh, well, you can just have this and give it out, as if no adverse consequences will come from this. Do you know the dosage you need? Do you know that that's the right kind of drug that you need? Do you know this, that, and the other? There are loads of other really complex factors. You're like, no, just hand them out to kids around the country. Nothing could go wrong there.
I mean, not to diminish this, I suppose prescription drugs may be slightly better than what some of the other queer theory activists do, like a certain person I had a run-in with who was trying to organise bathtub hormones to be sent off to children over the internet, through the postal service, in anonymous packaging, so their parents won't know.
Jesus Christ.
Yes, that is Keffels, of course, who is a complete degenerate and deserves to be put in prison for the rest of its life.
These lunatics, though, are actually going to hurt children. Like, that's actually what is going to be the consequence of this.
Oh, they don't care. At the end of the day, they think they're helping children, and anything that shows the opposite is just an unintended consequence that we can brush past.
I don't think they do think they're helping children. I don't think they care about that. Because if you scroll down a bit on this one, John, just so you can see the picture a bit better. This is all about that person.
Oh, yeah, I really hate that look of absolute smug, condescending smirk on the face.
It's not even that. Like, the reason you would take this photo and put this on the internet, if you wanted to help, like, if you genuinely thought you were helping trans children, you wouldn't put this on the internet where, like, the authorities might find it or conservative activists might find it. You would just do the thing you were thinking of doing because you thought the right thing to do. But that's not why they've done this. They look at the pose. It's not like it's a random pose. They've taken ages. Doing their hair, doing their makeup, exactly, getting everything beautifully in focus. Right, take this amazing photo. I'm going to look like a star while I'm doing this activity. And then, paragraph of all of this stuff. This is about her. This is not about any potential trans youth, if there is such a thing. This is about her. And that's what all of this is about.
Well, I would like to think that it's a combo of both of them, because there's no way that this person is not getting an immense amount of satisfaction over this photo going viral.
Yeah, this is exactly what they wanted.
Yes. But this is the danger of queer theory. This is why Twitter has banned James Lindsay, and this is why, as always, they show themselves to be on the side of pure evil.
If you appreciated that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content we have on the site, such as the ebook series, this one on King Canute. And if you want to find out what else we're putting out, you can follow us on Getter at lotuseaters_com on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.